This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm joined by Julianne and Bill all the way from Clos LaChance in California. How are you both today?
Doing
Oh, very
great.
good. Thank you. Appreciate you having us on.
Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us. We are just about to taste the Hayes Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, the Hayes Valley is a different, more approachable range than Clos LaChance, but tell us a little bit about the Cabernet Sauvignon, where you source the fruit for this wine.
Much of the fruit, some of the fruit comes from our estate,
Right.
others from primarily the Central Coast. We have good relationship with growers in the Central Coast area, down by Paso Robles. And with this wine, we wanted to, it is a Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's not going to stain your teeth and it's not going to put you back. So you're able to taste it. It is a blend, and I'm sure Julianne could look up very quickly what the blend is. All of our cabs are blends, and as I mentioned earlier, we have all 5 different Bordeaux varietals on our estate. Right. So we have the ability to mix and match. And stylistically, we want to be the same year to year, but the blend may change a little bit year to year based on the vagaries of the vintage.
It's 89% Cab, Sauv, and then 6% Merlot, 3% Zinfandel, and 2% Petit Syrah for this vintage.
That famous Bordeaux variety Zinfandel's in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, winemaker's choice is to get, that style he's looking for. I'm sure he's looking for the Zin to give it a little bit more spice.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm not going to argue with him.
It's a very approachable style of Cabernet. I can understand exactly what you're going for with this, because it's a juicy Cabernet. It doesn't come with that kind of heaviness, with the really aggressive tannin. It's obviously ready to drink right now. It doesn't need to be cellared for any length of time at all. I think would benefit from a little bit of a chill on it as well. I think these kind of juicier styles of Cabernet, I like them to be in the fridge for a little bit, or in the basement here. It's just about the perfect temperature. So this is wonderfully expressive and juicy. Some lovely red fruits coming off on this. And it's funny, now you mention the Zinfandel, it's probably just in my head. But I'm sure I can taste the Zinfandel. So
right.
Very
Glad you mentioned temperature, because I agree with you 100%. To consumers, I would tell them at the tasting room, typically you serve white wine too cold and red wine too warm.
For sure. And it's funny, I have some family members who haven't really got their head around that, and they always wonder why I'm putting the red wine in the fridge. But I'll tell you, on a day like today, this is perfect at cellar temperature. It's just divine. Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about the vinification for this. How do you make this wine?
Consistently with a lot of the wines, we will do whole cluster pressing. Mm-hmm. We have the temperature controlled tanks, and do a couple little tricks of the trade. We can monitor the temperature during fermentation, which is really important. Oftentimes, I can't tell you exactly which of those varietals happen. We'll do a cold soak prior to fermentation beginning. Oftentimes, Alicia, it's been cool, but oftentimes during harvest, it's hot. And we'll do it early in the morning, get the grapes in. Whatever you do with the heat and this natural yeast on the skins. We've done a lot of tests over the years between natural yeast and inoculated yeast. Never found any difference in quality. A lot of people say, oh, I use natural yeast. We've never found any difference in quality. By inoculating, you can control things better.
Yes.
And you don't want to get stuff like stuck fermentation and things like that. So we'll cold soak, oftentimes for a day or two. You can chill the tank and put the grapes in. But if you think about it, when you put the grapes in a big tank, the tank on the outside is cold, but you're putting the grapes, and the ones in the middle are going to be warm. It's kind of like when you pour your beer into a cold glass, still warm in the middle.
Yeah. And
so a technique we use often is be able to put some dry ice into the middle of the tank, which chills it down fast. Because with this process, we don't want fermentation to start we want to just let the grapes sit there and start the extraction process before fermentation. During fermentation, again, it's a style thing based on what the winemaker is looking for. We have the ability to manage the number of pump overs we do. Sometimes we'll do it two a day, or sometimes one a day. We want to speed up fermentation. We'll actually, during pump over, splash it into a bin to increase the oxygenation before putting it back in. You don't want to do that, you don't do that. If you're trying to slow it down, maybe only one pump over a day, you definitely wouldn't splash. And you control it with temperature. So it's a lot of valves the winemaker has during the fermentation process.
It's obviously a more gentle extraction here because you don't have any of those harsh tannins. It's
no, we don't want that. We don't want that.
Some really nice fruity delicacies and a little bit of floral notes coming out on it now.
Yeah, with that vinification process, you can control that.
Yes,
and you can slow the process down with temperature and the things you can do during pump over. And then be really careful. A significant part of our winery is gravity feed.
Right.
So we use pumps. Hey, in Bordeaux, I spent a week in Bordeaux years ago. They use pumps.
Oh, I know.
Too.
Yeah.
But you can be really careful with it and not, rough it up too much. We have our own bottling line, and we can maintain quality on that when it gets to that end of the process. No, I said the whole idea is to maintain this consistency in style and the balance we're looking for. And we give the winemaker a lot of tools to do that. Mm-hmm. All these tanks are temperature controlled. And you go into his office and you get the screen with all these tanks and things blinking and temperatures, and he sets the protocol. We make a Sauvignon Blanc, for example, which I think is terrific. And the issue with Sauvignon Blanc during fermentation, if it gets too hot, it'll blow off the esters, and you're not going to get any aroma to it. And so very careful management of the temperature of vinification, high enough to keep it going, but low enough to keep the esters in. And it's a skill.
Now, when we're speaking about oak with this wine, what's the story here?
What does it say?
So for that one, it's aged for 14 months in 30% New French oak, and then 70% is neutral French ook.
Right, that makes sense. Okay. That makes sense because oak is
the idea there is okay. You got it. The neutral oak will add. It'll round it off because there is some oxidation taking place during in the oak, but it's not going to give it heavy oak. It's not going to impart much oak character to it, but it's going to give you the aging characteristics of oak.
And where would you see this at the dinner table? I know where I would put it. So,
my friends, my wife and I like to sip white wine sitting on the terrace. My friends like red, and they would go to this if they wanted a little lighter treatment. Or you'll taste the Clos LaChance here shortly. Yes, the Clos LaChance with a little bit, I hate to use the word heavier, but a little bit bigger wine. So it'd be sipping. It's not doesn't need to age for a whole bunch of time. And we would have it with coming up now is Thanksgiving. We'd have with turkey. My wife makes a great marinara sauce with sausage and meatballs. Perfect for that.
Oh, I can see that for sure. I was thinking I like to get some really good lamb and make quite hearty lamb burgers. And I could enjoy that with this right now. In fact, I'm thinking about what I'm doing for dinner now because I'll still have some of this bottle left over. So we'll see. We'll see.
What already open. There's many ideas.
Exactly. What about you, Julianne?
Probably. I like to throw out some big ones, right? Before it was lobster, let's do ribs.
All right. Okay. No, I can see that. Yeah, I made ribs the other night, and I can imagine them sitting very well with this. It's a delightful wine. I think I'm going to be enjoying this one with dinner this evening.
Great.
Julianne and Bill, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. Bye for now.
Pleasure. Thank you.